If you're unlucky enough to find that your boots start hurting after you've set out on a multi-day trip, there's 3 things you can do to try and relieve the problem. The first thing is, if you find that there's a pressure point over the top of your foot, then when you come to put your laces on, do up the bottom D-rings, and then instead of just lacing up in the traditional way, treble the laces below where it's been hurting you. And then you can hook the laces around and bypass the troublesome area. When you get above the place that's been giving you the pain, you can treble the laces again. And trebling does 2 things. First of all, it ensures there's no slippage around the painful area, and secondly, it helps to keep those laces in place. That allows the boot to flex much more easily over the area that's been giving you grief. Obviously, if your foot's sliding around inside the boot whilst you're walking around, the easiest way to deal with that, of course, is just to put on an extra pair of socks, or even increase the thickness of the socks that you're wearing, depending on what you've got in your rucksack. But if your heel's slipping up and down all the time, that's a slightly different problem. I take a elasticated bandage like this out of my first aid kit, and I double or treble it until it's about that sort of length, put it over the heel area, and now what we've done, of course, is fatten the heel area, but we haven't increased the thickness around the forefoot, so we're going to avoid any cramping in the front of the boot. Slide my foot back in carefully, and then lace up. There's obviously lots of different ways to lace your boot up. If tripling doesn't work for you, just keep experimenting until you find one that suits your foot. The right way, of course, is the way that makes sure there's no discomfort. Now, of course, the ideal is to make sure that you've sorted out your feet before you've even left home. And in order to get a pair of boots that fit your foot perfectly, I'm off to learn more from John Decker. So John, you're one of Cotswold's boot fitting experts.
Yep.
And you fitted hundreds of pairs of boots at in-store boot fitting clinics.
Yes.
If someone comes into the store holding an existing pair of boots and complaining their feet have been sliding around when they've been on the hill, can you help them?
Well, I sincerely hope so. Ordinarily, we would just take a baseline measurement, get the size of their feet. We could then use a volume reducer or a tongue depressor, depending on which one's more appropriate, to take the volume out of the boot so that would stop their feet sliding around.
And if volume reducers or tongue depressors aren't the complete solution, is there anything else that we can put inside the boots?
As a matter of course, we would ask for people's feet to be measured.
Right.
Once we've got a baseline, once we've measured the feet, if their sizing is between the unweighted and the weighted is over half a size, we'd offer some form of foot stabilisation. The preferred type of stabilisation we'd use in store would be a Superfeet footbed. We use footbeds, but once the foot is stabilised, if there's any lumps or bumps or protrusions on the feet, we can ordinarily accommodate those in the actual boot fitting process.
And can you modify the Superfeet insoles for the individual as well?
Yes, we can. The Superfeets come as standard, but if there's a need, we can grind them down, we can move them about inside the boot to a certain extent, and we can take the transition period down, the transition of the footbed down to 0 on a grinder. Everyone's
got a unique foot, obviously. Is there anything you can do to personalise the boot if someone comes in wanting a new pair of boots, but they're not fitting quite right straight out of the box?
Yes, we can. We can stretch the footwear. If people have got first met heads that are rather large, say you're getting a bunion, then we can actually stretch the footwear out over that area. If there's a little bit of space required over the little toe, we can stretch that out as well. If the heels need moulding, we can do that. It's all done with heat and steam, and it's offered in our stores.
And can this be done whilst the customer waits, or have they got to keep coming backwards and forwards each time?
Ordinarily, it can be done whilst the customer's waiting. Obviously, if someone comes in right at the end of the day, then we'd mark the boot up and we'd do it at a convenient time. Ordinarily, it's done for nothing in our stores for the customer.
Fantastic. And if they go away having had the boot modified and they find on their first couple of walks something's not quite right, can they come back?
bring it back and we'll sort it out for them.
Great, fantastic, thanks very much. So whether you already have a pair of boots or are thinking of buying a new pair, hopefully some of our suggestions will enable you to enjoy wearing a pair of boots that fit perfectly.